with the advances of technology, I think is what's really helped our industry. I actually had a gentleman who was in Vietnam when he was 18 years old, and he wanted to get a tattoo of his troop logo, like the patch.
Yeah.
And he said back then that they couldn't do it because the collars and stuff wouldn't have stayed. You know what I mean? Because it was so far back. I mean, you're talking Vietnam. So he comes to me and he's like in his 70s. And obviously we have the technology, man. You know what I mean? It's like really like that. The collars and stuff are more vibrant. The machines will put it in. Obviously his skin was, quite a bit more fragile, which comes with age. But it ended up turning out great, healed up nice, and he was super pleased.
Welcome to Agency Unplugged. I'm Michael Morris. With me, as always, is Coach Sean Brown. And, Coach, I brought us a guest today. Are you excited?
Yes, I see that.
Now, the problem is his name is also Sean. So when I say Sean, both of you answer at the same time. We have Sean Jarvis from 22 Caliber with us. For our listeners, not our viewers, say hello, my boy.
Hey, it's Sean Jarvis with 22 Caliber Tattoos.
So, Sean, the reason we have you in is, one, you kind of fit in the mode of what we're doing because all of us are a little unhinged. But we met a month or two ago, and kind of give people background. First of all, can you do your spot for me?
Do the whole spot?
Do the whole spot.
I mean, there's so many spots, though. I mean, which one would I choose?
Whichever one's off the top of your head, because people are going to go, that guy has a radio voice, and I want them to hear the radio voice that actually is going on.
I was going to say I've been on the radio a lot. But, hey, it's Sean Jarvis with 22 Caliber Tattoos. Stop by one of our drug and alcohol-free facilities for all your body art needs.
See, I love that.
I'm curious. You have to state drug and alcohol free. So do people come to tattoo parlors wanting drugs?
That's a great question.
So let me say, it's that old stigmata. I mean, you got to think I've been doing this about 20 years. Back in the day, I mean, a lot of people really associated tattoo and stuff with bikers. It went from like the Navy and the military to the biker gangs. And then it's like a stigmata, a lot of the older people that don't have tattoos, you know what I mean? They basically look at us like, oh, not these guys, you know what I mean? Because of what we do for a living. I actually just got told that I couldn't rent or lease a space up north because of what we do. So there's still people to this day that's prejudiced against what we're doing.
Here's what I find odd, because like Sean and I are very old school. Like Sean is 70 years old. He looks really good. But at 49, I remember girls getting tattoos, or you had to be a real hard ass to get a tattoo in the 90s, right? Because it was like, oh, you think you're a badass? And now every nursing home person has a tattoo on them. I thought the attitude would change on that.
I think a lot of it's because of the technology. I mean, what's been kind of nice with me is over the years, I've sat here and watched our industry grow. With the inventions of numbing creams, machines that doesn't need a cord. Everything's battery powered. They're quiet. You used to walk into my shops and be like, ring, like chainsaws everywhere. Now you walk in, you can't even tell if anybody's even working. You know what I mean? It's literally like that now. So with the advances of technology, I think is what's really helped our industry. I actually had a gentleman who was in Vietnam when he was 18 years old. And he wanted to get a tattoo of his troop logo, like the patch.
Yeah.
And he said back then that they couldn't do it because the collars and stuff wouldn't have stayed. You know what I mean? Because it was so far back. I mean, you're talking Vietnam. So he comes to me and he's like in his 70s. And obviously we have the technology, man. You know what I mean? It's like really like that. The collars and stuff are more vibrant. The machines will put it in. Obviously his skin was, quite a bit more fragile, which comes with age. But it ended up turning out great, healed up nice, and he was super pleased.
For somebody like Coach Sean Brown, who's always talking about getting a tattoo, when you get somebody that's like, hey, man, I just want a tattoo, you ever talk him out of it?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Like, because he'll say, dude, we got to meet that guy. He's talking about you. Well, and he's like, I want to get a tattoo. And I'm like, but he never has ever said what it would be. I feel like he'd want like a chest piece that's just like a big falcon or something and go, yeah, I don't know why I got it. Would that be fair? Or do you have an idea?
No.
See, that's my point.
But it would not be a falcon on my chest.
I have a feeling
Maybe a
it'd be something
hairline.
worse.
I could do
Oh,
a
what?
hairline. I
Some
could use a
hair.
hairline.
We tattoo some hair on him.
Could you tattoo other eyebrows on his eyebrows? I think that would look
People
good.
tattoo. My ex-wife's got tattoo eyebrows, and
It's
Well,
funny.
she's got a lot of
We
other
started
problems.
that.
No, but
Yeah, we did.
the girls come in for that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm one of the only people out of all my locations that actually does the permanent makeup.
How
I've
does
done
that?
tons of eyebrows.
But how does that work? Like,
they
I'm not-
use a tattoo gun and they tattoo it on your.
oh, thanks. Well, that's been the show. Shut up. What I'm saying is, when they come in, when was the first time that somebody kind of brought that up to you? Like, had you heard of that before?
Back 20 years ago, no, nobody was doing it. I mean, you got to think, and I've looked into this stuff. We were doing that permanent makeup stuff 15, 20 years ago when nobody else was doing it. Then all of a sudden, there's these salons and stuff that's offering these weekend courses for these girls to do microblading, which is where they're basically cutting instead of using a tattoo machine. And then they're just basically pouring ink in it. The problem with those sets and the kits that these girls are using is the ink's not really made to last. So what ends up happening, and they're like raping people, man. It's like $600 to get a set of eyebrows done in a beauty salon. Like no bullshit. And the problem is the ink's not made to stay, so that they're doing that on purpose,
Right.
to keep the client to come back.
Because you're coming back every 90 to 120
Say
days.
another every year even, and you've got to spend $600 to get them touched up. If I do it, it's done, 100%. I charge $80 for a set of eyebrows, and then basically they're done. If they need a free touch up, I give them a free touch up. But I've never really, through the years, ever had that issue. You know what I mean? Because our ink's way more permanent than what these girls are using in these salons.
I find that like I wouldn't have thought you would have done that. I guess because I think so. One of the
We're
things
good
is
at
Coach Sean Brown and I will always talk about like when you are whatever your item is, people will only recognize you for that. So like when you're Best Buy's problem is they started advertising the Geek Squad and didn't tell you what they sold. So when it was refrigerators or something like that, people only recognize your brand for one thing. So for people that see your thing and go, oh, 22 caliber, it must be for real hard ass type of people to come there. But that's not really your clientele. Like the times I've been there, actually it's been more women than men that came in.
That's a 75-20 split these days. It used to be the opposite 20 years ago. It was always the guys that was coming in. But then once the women kind of got on the bandwagon, now you get nurses and all kind of stuff coming through. You know what I mean? That they're the ones that actually bring them in. So it's really done a role reversal big time. Just through the 20 years I've been doing it.
Did men bring their women in before trying to get them, or
I mean, back then it was more of a hey man, I got a buddy, you know what I mean? Let's go hit the tat guy up, you know what I mean? That was old school stuff. But you got to kind of, I mean, it's not really a badass thing or not. You got to kind of look at how I got the name. You know what I mean? Just because it says 22 caliber, it's nothing to do with guns. It's nothing to do with badassery. I mean, there was actually a story that went to make the name.
You can tell the story because I haven't told him the story and I want to see his reaction because I want to see if it's the same I had. Go ahead.
Basically, I got shot. I got shot in my tattoo hand by a jerk-off neighbor. I had never met the gentleman before. Basically, my then girlfriend had her 3 nieces over, plus her daughter, and they were outside right after Easter playing with sidewalk chalk. He's out there cussing at these little girls because of them riding on the city sidewalk in front of his house with sidewalk chalk. They come in, they used the potty, they went back out, and when they went out, they let this little dog that we had out at the time. So I told my then girlfriend, hey, keep an eye on the stuff I was cooking these kids on the stove. I'm going to go and check on these girls and make sure everything's all right and get the dog. So I get out there, I see it looks like the sidewalk was wet, like somebody had hosed it off because it's a summer day, there wasn't no rain. And his garage door was open. And I had never met this guy before. I'd lived there almost 10 years. First time I'd ever seen the guy. He's up in my face, basically telling me to keep my fucking kids in my own fucking yard.
So he's a friendly guy.
Yeah, very friendly. Yeah. So basically I just told him, I said, hey man, it's just chalk. It'll wash off, settle down. You know what I mean? So anyway, I told the girls, I said, come on, let's go in. I said, I'll just call the police and this guy can deal with them because he's pretty irate. So as I turn around, next thing I know, I get a bullet whiz past my head. He had actually pulled a pistol out of his pocket, a 22 caliber, took a shot at me. And obviously your first idea is get the fuck out of Dodge. You know what I mean? So I start jumping around, weaving, ducking, bobbing.
You weren't doing the John Wick and running at him with elbows up.
Oh no, I had nothing on me. And I didn't even really own guns back then. I had a 9mm that I kept in my nightstand. Other than that, I had never messed with firearms at all, unless I went hunting for some rabbit or something with my brother. So anyway, he takes one shot at me. I'm ducking and weaving up through my front yard. He takes another shot at me. He misses. I go to dive in front of my pickup truck that was parked up close to the garage. He shoots in front of me and hits me in the hand, which you can see here. I mean, I have no bone. He hit me right in just my pointer finger. Bullet went clean through it. You could see right through it, man, whenever he did it, bleeding everywhere. Obviously, we had to go to court and all that stuff. He ends up getting 8 years in jail over it.
The funniest part of your story is that you had to go to court to say, oh, by the way, Judge, he shot me.
I think what really fried him is because he shot me in front of these kids. That judge did not like that whatsoever. The amount of shots he took 3 shots at me. It's me once.
Over chalk.
Over sidewalk chalk. You can actually look up on YouTube. It's called Sidewalk Chalk Shooting, and you'll see the news broadcast with me on there where I just get out of the hospital and they're interviewing me. Because they camped my house, man, for like days while I was in the hospital. The news crews, there was like 6 news crews in front of my house.
But you don't have the shop at this point. You're still doing construction.
No, I was doing construction, but I was also kind of tattooing out of my home. You know what I mean? I had a really nice setup in my basement. Kind of looks like one of my shops. I mean, it really did. Pool table and everything. I mean, it was nice in there. So I was just basically honing my skills, I guess, back then to get where I'm. Obviously I know.
What do you think of that? Because how many times are we trying to come up with a name for somebody's business? And he just goes, so I got shot, so that's going to be the name of my business.
It's very intriguing. And that is crazy over sidewalk chalk and kids that somebody lost their, was his name Karen?
No.
All right. That is just crazy to think that somebody was that
thought,
upset.
Yeah, when I met him, I thought, because when you go in his shop, and I want you to kind of detail what the shop looks like, because I also want you to talk about your COVID experience. When I went in, he's got all this cool chrome, like the place.
Stainless or diamond plate.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful to the point where it looks like no work is being done in it, and it's got all this cool artwork and all that. And I thought, I've never seen a place like this, because when I was in radio 20 some years ago, you would go to a tattoo place and it would be like, those dirty ass bars on campus where it's like, it doesn't have a wall. It's more of like they pull like a fence down. And so I thought, this must be his office until I saw people actually getting tattooed. But to think that you named it after that, and when he told me the story, I did what you did. I was like,
there's reasons for the diamond plate and all that too. I mean, this has been a major learning experience all the way around for me, but through the years, I understood things. When you have to go and repaint walls once a year because of people's feet prints or kids doing this or that, I couldn't afford to build that shop the way it is now in the beginning. Very meager. I was the only guy there. I had nobody else working for me at the time, so it was just me. So it was very, very meager. I mean, I had to borrow my last $80 to get a sink from my mother, $80 from her to get this sink because they were coming in the next morning to do my inspection from the health department, and I had no sink. I had 2 sinks in there, but that wasn't good enough because it couldn't be in a bathroom. It had to be out in the middle, like the hallway, where we could just walk up and wash our hands. So I was on very meager funds at that time. I'd put everything, all my money in it. I built it personally. I didn't hire anybody. I just went in there and built the damn thing. But the shop you see now is from years of doing this. What works better? Well, that nice diamond plate, 5 foot up the wall. If you look on every corner, there's nice black 1x there. That's so people can't tear the corners up. That's so there ain't footprints and crap all over the walls. It's a nice cleanable surface. You know what I mean? And then I like that open floor plan, and we have nice curtains if they did need privacy. So that was something that I kind of started here in Columbus, because when I worked in shops previous to starting my own, it was that little dark, dingy corridor you had to walk down to go into this little teeny tiny room, and it was always graffitied up with crazy looking paint jobs. And
they look like
dingy
hostels in Europe or something where it just looks dirty and you're like,
scary to me.
but this spot's clean, I think. So let's just, pierce you or whatever.
Yeah. Well, the thing I looked at was customer experience. People's with people in their anxiety disorders that they already have, generally, to come into a place like that you got to walk down this little corridor, you're already nervous. I really thought a lot about what I was trying to put into this business. You know what I mean? And things that I seen in shops that I'm going to do the opposite of. Everything that I've done so far in my business strategy and plan with what I do is the opposite of everything I've seen these other tattoo places in Columbus doing.
Right.
Because they're just not there. They're not thinking of the client. You know what I mean? You got to understand, I've had anxiety disorders in my life. I've seen it even in my own family. My dad was actually agoraphobic. He wouldn't, my whole youth, my dad never left the home. He wouldn't leave the property because he was agoraphobic.
So how did he work?
He didn't. My mom worked.
Okay.
Luckily, my mom worked at Xerox and had a hell of a good job. She'd been there 40 years.
Wait, how did they meet?
Farmers, bro.
Oh, I'm just trying to picture, I'm thinking of Sean and his wife.
My grandparents were farmers, and then my other grandparents was farmers. And somehow they met that way. I have no idea. I've never really asked them the story. They're obviously both deceased now, but
yeah, but I never thought to ask you that. Like when you said that, I was thinking, how would you ever meet a woman and have children?
Right.
Of course, I don't leave my property at all.
I can tell you how the children part happened.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you
how do Coach? How do the children get here?
Big stork.
Well, you got to think. I mean, with that agoraphobia, that came with a lot of the anxiety disorder. I mean, you used to have mad panic attacks. I just remember seeing that growing up. And a lot of that stuff I think is actually handed down. I know that might sound weird. But by watching that, I think I end up having, cause man, you got to think back in the early 90s, when I had a concrete business, I was working for all the big home builders here in Columbus, and I had about 70 guys working for me, but I was the only one running shit. I didn't have accountants. I didn't have bookkeepers or lawyers, the things I have now. That I said when I finished that business, that if I ever open something new, I'm going to have other people do these jobs because it's super hard to do.
Right.
And they started giving me panic attacks and anxiety and things like that. So I went through that for a few years before I turned around and found myself again, because it's like a nightmare. Anxiety is like a nightmare. I promise you it is. It's real. It's not all in your head either, like a lot of these people try to say. I lived it. I experienced it. But I kind of picked myself up and I started this business. You know what I mean? So I went from one business of doing a certain job and the anxiety getting to so stressful that I had to get out of it.
Do you think that the fact that you're doing something artistic helps you with that?
I think it does, because one of my big go-tos was when I would start to have anxiety or panic attacks, I would sit and draw. I would sit and doodle. I would color in coloring books. I know that might sound corny.
Actually, that sounds fucking cool.
But what I was doing was putting my mind on something completely different than what I was focused on with the anxiety. And it really helped me a ton. But like I said, I mean, to be able to pull yourself out of that, because a lot of people really can't, in order to go and start a completely new business, it takes a big set of balls, man, and a lot of hard work, and your mind has to be focused on something other than the panic or anxiety.
I would like to ask this of Coach. Have you had any anxiety lately in the last month or two? And have you been doodling? Because we've been working our asses off, right, on a lot of these projects. Do you ever feel overwhelmed?
Not in the workspace. I mean, I got anxiety issues. And it hits me in different areas.
You got some tics.
I don't know about tics.
They're not big, but most of the time you have like the emotions of a potato. Like you don't get too stirred up. I don't mean that in a bad way.
You think that way. For some reason,
that's suppression. That's holding all this.
Well, that's the thing. Like he'll be telling me a story. Like it'll be the worst shit you ever. Like I'm freaking out for him. And he'll be like, "Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow."
Sure.
I can't rest because I don't know the end of this story. Then the next day it's like, "We'll just push it another day." And I'm like, I can't. I have to keep moving forward. Like I can't stand sitting still. And I don't. You guys are both.
That could be a suppression. I mean, because you're right. I don't feel like it bothers me then, but I'll have a panic attack at 11 o'clock at night when I'm laying in bed.
See,
I
I
don't
feel
know what it's from, but
I don't have like I can't draw, but what I can do is write.
Yeah.
So like I'll be writing. Someone hasn't even asked me for this, and I'm writing it. Get off of me.
he writes on his hands.
Yeah, this honestly is my problem. I have to write this on my hand every day.
Now,
So that's
you
probably
can't
my
write.
suppression.
You can write, but if you go in and look at that board, we got a dry
No.
erase board. It's literally 10 feet by 10 feet.
I see that.
And when he wants to write something down to show us, he writes it this big and it's crooked and it's up all the way in the teeny little corner. We could have a 5-inch by 5-inch board.
Where's Walter?
That's how, I'm like, dude, what? You got this big board and I can't even read it. Like,
Yesterday,
you can't write.
I can't write. I can type. I mean, I can write scripts and all that.
Sure.
Yesterday, I'm trying to write. We have 12 things to work on. And to me, I think you can read it. It has the name and the numbers. And he's sitting off to the side and he goes, I don't even know what that says. I'm like, how can you not read this? Meanwhile, I turn around and I'm like, I can't read that shit either.
So I said I was like drawing and coloring, but there was also something else I did. Speaking of writing, is I would actually sit and write down my day's events and what I thought about them. And why I did that was because the next time I would have an anxiety attack,
You can refer to it.
I would refer back and say, okay, well, I lived through this.
Right.
So it's not that bad, so I can live through the next one. You know, that's a lot of it in your head. You got to understand it didn't kill you. So it must have made you stronger, right? I mean,
Right.
Because there was a point where I couldn't even go to stores. I was getting agoraphobic like my dad was, to the point where I didn't want to go anywhere. And what if I did? Man, I had to plot out my trip and, okay, hospitals are over here, blah, blah. I mean, it really
Oh,
was
you mean
that
to
bad.
prepare if something went wrong, I could run to
I made sure I was,
Got it.
because I mean, I'm telling you, all you're thinking is like, oh my God, I'm dying over here. You're getting pains in your arms. Your face is like, you know, blood's rushing to your head. Your feet are tingling from lack of blood. I mean, you until you've had a really full-blown panic attack, it's hard to explain how scary that is.
So let me ask you this. You're in a business where someone says, hey, I want whatever design.
Mm.
Do you ever get, I don't want to put this in the head because no, I don't want to fuck you. When somebody told me what my thing is that I do, then I became aware of it. So I'm afraid to ask this, but I'm going to.
Sure.
Someone comes to you and they're unsure of what they want and you're talking to them and you're going to put this thing permanently on their body.
Sure.
Do you ever get nervous about it or is it just click like you're Kobe Bryant and this is what I do and I'm the best at it?
I think a lot of it has to do with, I mean, to try to pull an ideal out of somebody is one of the hardest things, especially like you just said, it's for the rest of their lives. It's going to go on their skin. So, I mean, it takes a lot of patience. You got to really sit and work with a person. I'm not a fan of half-assery. I'm not going to sit here and put something on somebody that I personally am not going to be happy with for my own artistic, abilities. But I also don't want to put things on people that they're going to regret the rest of their life. It's kind of like piercing clits, and if I can say that.
You can say piercing.
But sure. But piercing clits, it's a 50-50 chance that a woman will lose sensation. Do you really want to be that guy that you're being damned the rest of their lives or their sex lives or whatever because now they have no sensation? It's the same thing with tattoos. Do I want to be damned by putting something on this man that he's not going to like the rest of his life?
But you know what's so interesting about what you're saying? None of that had to do with you.
No.
It's all client focused. So
Always.
whatever business you would be in, you would always be client focused, right?
Always.
But that has to come from somewhere. Either it comes from the way you were raised or just what you think. Like our thing, we had one today. We're with a buddy of ours that we do business with. And literally, Sean advised him to do something. Cancel this thing because it doesn't work, okay? We're with this asshole for 90 minutes, and he's a great dude.
Right.
Today,
does he watch your podcast by chance?
Actually,
does him an asshole?
Oh,
he's afraid. He's afraid to get on Facebook.
Oh yeah. Well,
but he has a mug.
Let me talk to him.
Which you're more than welcome to take, and he has a hat, so we know he likes the merchandise.
Sure.
But he said,
of course.
So Sean, we're just talking to him this morning, out of just a random buddies checking in type thing. And he said, hey, I did what you told me. I cut my spending back. And he goes, I told you to cancel it all.
Right. I cut it back.
The confusion was he didn't realize what Sean was capable of doing.
Which I don't know how that's possible.
And I'm not blaming you. What I'm saying is when you're always looking out for somebody else, sometimes you forget to ask for the order, to say, hey, this is what I do and this is what we can do together. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying you're in your same situation. I'm going to put this on your arm. Great. And then you can start to do it and they'll say, well, I wanted 6 inches lower. Like, you know what I mean? You have to be exact about what you're doing.
Well, that's where a good contract comes into play.
Do they sign contract in that?
Everybody walks in my door has to sign a waiver, which is still a contract by law. I have taken it to contract lawyers, ironclad as fuck. I personally wrote it. I've been very good at writing contracts. Obviously, I was an estimator for my concrete business for almost 18 years. So I mean, we put stuff in there for that reason. We want everybody to be happy. We use stencils and we put a stencil on you before we ever tattoo you. So you got 3 times to sit here and look at something.
Why is that funny?
So you get a drawing, you get a stencil. It's on your body with the placement. All you got to do is accept it or not, and we can tweak things however they want. Other than that, I mean, they got plenty of time before they ever get it tattooed on to object or say they love it.
That just made me realize how dumb my child is. Because he ended up going to California with some family and he wanted to get his first tattoo. He got a tattoo of the date my grandmother passed away, which was his great grandma.
I have such a bad feeling where this is going,
and it was wrong. It was wrong. He came back, and I'm like,
I got way better ones.
Oh, I'm sure you do, but I
just saw your face change, and I'm thinking, like, why are you?
I'm thinking the whole time. I'm thinking like, okay, he got the stencil, he got to look at it, and he never checked to see if it was right.
Listen, can I tell a little story real quick?
Yes.
I got a funny one too. I had this fella come to me. It was him and his wife's 17-year anniversary. So what he wanted, and mind you, this was back when I was single, didn't know shit about marriage, you know what I mean, all that. So he comes in, he wants to get his wedding band put on his finger, tattoo it on his finger.
Okay.
I said, all right, man. So I get it. He shows me the ring. I take it and I get a drawing of the actual ring that he would normally wear. A lot of guys will get that done because obviously rings can catch things. If you're in construction, you're a mechanic, that's not a good job to wear a ring in because it could take a finger off if it gets stuck on something. So they'll come get them tattooed, which is awesome. So the guy gets this ring put on him. And I told him, I said, okay, man, where you want it? You know what I mean? You pick the spot, you pick it, I'll stick it, we're good, right? It's not my job to consider his placement. So I get all this done. He goes, everything's happy, everybody's cool. I get home, me and the kids are out. I'm dragging the kids with a wagon around the block, just taking a walk. And this guy calls me. I put this damn thing on the wrong finger, man. Now, I didn't. He did.
Right. He told you where to put it.
He told me where to put it. You know what I mean? And he accepted the responsibility. His old lady's like pissed at him because he put it on the wrong finger. He was 1 digit off. You know what I mean? He was over here.
What an idiot.
It wasn't even like a wrong hand scenario. He just, and like I said, it's not my job to say, hey, man,
he just said, I want it.
That's right,
here.
because you didn't
I wasn't
know about
married.
it, so you weren't thinking about it.
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, you weren't married. So,
I wasn't married.
Yeah.
So honestly, you see, I'm wearing mine.
Well, that was my first thought because I haven't been married in a long time. And I was thinking, which finger you do
That's
put it on?
the first thing you would think, right? Yeah.
Wait, it's your left hand, right?
Left hand.
Yeah. Left hand.
Yep.
Ring finger. It's called ring finger.
Technically. So, yeah, he did that. And then he calls me up and, no harm, no foul. I mean, he wasn't mad because he knew he's the one that told me where to put it.
Did he want
to? I swear to God, he even looked it up on his phone, like on Google, to see what finger to put it on, man. Right in front of me. I mean, people do that.
What kind of Temu
Google?
No shit.
Google told me wrong.
It'd be great if that brought down Google. That would be the thing that government didn't, but this one dude. Listen, we've run out of time on this show, but we're going to run this back because we got a lot more to get into. You've been listening to Agency Unplugged. We will be right back.